Okay, so my next guest is a radiologist, a nuclear medicine technologist, and has a Master of Business Administration. She also considers herself an avid world traveler, a bookworm, and a gamer. She is also the new Invicta FC Atomweight champ from Arlington, Texas. I'd like to welcome Jinh Yu Frey. Hey, this is Evolve WMMA, and I'm Shelley Devine, your host. Hi, Jinh. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. You don't look too black and blue there. I was expecting to see a little bit more.
It's starting to come out today. It's like
a little bit under the eyes. Yeah, the trials and tribulations of battle.
That's it.
The warrior scars. Oh my gosh, are you just getting back from the gym?
Yes.
Cool. So how's it feel?
It feels great. It's still kind of sinking in. So, but it's been a long journey. And I fought Ayaka for the title 2 years ago, and so I thought I'd be in this situation a lot sooner than 2 years. It's been a lot happen in between that time and now, but good things come to those who wait, and it's here now.
Yeah, awesome. I know you. I understand. After I listened to the fight, the announcers, and you had been up. You've had half of your career has been title fights, apparently, huh?
Yeah, those 5 rounders are no joke.
Yeah, for sure. A long fight. So this is a little bit of a controversial fight, and I know you're aware. Where most people were thinking that it was 4 rounds maybe that Minna might have won, and then the one round that you had won. And
I don't know if I'd say most people.
Yeah, I think
messages.
it was kind of across, like when on the show or whatever on Fight Pass, that's what it appeared. Most people were kind of like, oh wow, from what we could see from the audience. That's what I mean.
I think it was a very close fight. I think I would have given myself 3 rounds, like the 49-46. I wouldn't agree with that. 48-47, I think is a lot closer to what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with a close fight, no matter who the victor is, you're going to have people in an uproar for either side. So had it gone the other way, you would have seen so many people like in an uproar that I didn't win. And for as many people who are like upset and whatever, it was a robbery, like I've had that many more people messaging me, and I've had high profile fighters, high profile analysts messaging me and saying, what, I felt like the decision was correct because I was glad that the judges didn't award her for just wanting to hold you on the cage. It's one thing if you hold someone on the cage and you're busy and you're doing damage and you're hitting them with shots, but just to literally use all your energy to hold someone on a cage isn't necessarily being that effective either.
Yeah, it's an old Randy Couture technique.
Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and frankly, it's such a subjective thing and it's like it depends on what you value most in a fight, what you think is more important.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's going to have their own opinion about it, but at the end of the day, the judges still awarded it to me.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and the thing of it is too is not to let your fight go to the judges. So like most fighters from the gym that I kind of train out is like, you don't want it to go to the judges. You want to finish the fight, and for that maybe not happening and leaving up the question. This was the next question I have, and I know I didn't mean to get right into this right away. I'm sorry. I mean, like totally like slam you. All right, let's just get down and dirty here. But I figure fight fans probably want to hear, from you what your thoughts are on it. when you're looking at this, I know right after the fight, you were questioned, and then they went to Minna, and she said that she didn't want, right after the fight, she didn't want a rematch, kind of like, why bother? And I actually questioned her. I sent her a text just to find out, what her feeling was. And she would be up for a rematch. Is that something you would consider, or how do you feel about that? After kind of what's in the news and what's been said about it, the fight and everything, and how it kind of went. It was a really tough fight. You guys were both evenly matched. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, if that's who Shannon says that I need to fight, and that's who I fight. I don't really have a say in it. I really don't care who it is. I do what she tells me to do, and if they say, hey, we want to run this one back again, then I'm okay with that one too.
Yeah. Awesome. That's good. That's the way to handle it, I think, too. So I was looking at your profile. I really didn't know too much about you. I was really wowed by your background. I mean, you're a radiologist and a nuclear medicine technologist. How cool is that? I mean, that's a lot of years of training. And then too, you have a master's in business administration. How did you get into fighting?
It just started out as a hobby, kind of a way to get in shape, just something new to try. But I'm just a super competitive person, so it kind of just grew from there.
Mm-hmm. Do you work in that field now, or are you strictly in the fight game? Is that your career?
I still work part-time, like I'm a PRN. I might work 1 or 2 days a week. I still take call like once a week or like 1 week a month for the hospital. If somebody's on vacation or sick, they give me a call and I'll come in and work.
Yeah. So what's your preference? Do you want to be like, full-time fighter and an influencer?
Yeah, I definitely would much rather not have to get up, at 6 or 7 every morning and work at, your typical 9 to 5, and work for somebody else. Whereas now I would say I'm more like my own boss.
It's nice to be your own boss, right? I mean, you can kind of set your pace a bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a couple of dogs? I see, I was looking through some of your pictures, and you make a great Wonder Woman. That was awesome. And then some of the other ones, do you cosplay or?
Yeah, I've done it, just about every probably every event for like the last 2.5, 3 years. It kind of breaks up the monotony. It's something fun to kind of look forward to. The fans enjoy it, and I'm sure for the photographers working for Invicta, it kind of breaks up the monotony for them as well, because you can only shoot, the same 5 poses with like 20 people in a day. I'm sure that like by the end of the day, they're just like so numb.
Right. I love your little dog. Is it Nano?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, do you have more than one dog? Because I saw another picture of you with another dog.
I do. We earlier in the year we rescued a Belgian Malinois.
Oh wow!
He's a 2-year-old. He's a handful, but he's a lot of fun. He's a good dog. But Nano, I've had her since I was like 18. She's like going on 15, and so she's been with me, forever.
Yeah, the photos are adorable with her in them. I'm like, oh my gosh, such a cute dog. So. With the cosplay, what was your favorite costume that you kind of wore so far?
I think this one's probably been the biggest hit. The very first one I did was Chun-Li, and that one was pretty good. But this one I actually, spent a decent amount of money and got like a really good quality costume.
Yeah.
And it was a hit. I liked it.
Yeah, it looks really good. I thought it was great. I was like, wow, she could actually be.
Oh, I actually had some people like contact me and were like, hey, could you do my daughter's birthday party?
Yeah, right? I believe it. I believe it. You'll probably be getting some studio calls too for like, a double or something,
Hey, if they're willing to pay.
Yeah, right? You have to have a good manager too, I bet, to
Yeah.
make a deal, wheel a deal.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, so that's really cool that Invicta does that. So I wanted to know, I know I interviewed Minna a while back and a few weeks ago before the fight, and was hoping to get you on too prior to, but one of the things that I noticed was on your record, I mean, you had a really tough fight, and you haven't been in the cage since I think January or December of 2017, right? So it was
Mhm.
like a little while. So did you feel a little like coming off of a loss, and it was a tough loss against who was it? He
So yeah.
Hatsui. How did you feel? Were you like at all kind of like, okay, a little nervous about it, getting into
No,
the cage this time?
no, not really. I mean, it's the nature of what we do. It can
Mm-hmm.
happen. Um, Obviously I was upset about it at the time, but I've kind of come to terms with it. And even after that happened, it wasn't ever like quitting fighting ever entered my mind. It wasn't like, oh my God, that happened, I don't ever want to fight again, or that's too
Yeah.
dangerous, or I'm scared it's going to happen again. It was more like, okay, get back to the grind. I mean, the next week I was like back in the gym, and it's like, okay, we make sure this never happens again.
Yeah. I just interviewed a woman that actually knocked another girl out during a Muay Thai fight about 2 weeks ago, and it was her first, being able to knock somebody out. But I'm like, I can't imagine what it must feel like, when you get kind of knocked out that quickly, and how you kind of mentally recover from that. I don't have the opportunity to really ask too many people, and I guess that's why I'm asking you. It was like, what was it like to come out of that and then realize that you're not where you thought you were in that fight? And I mean, does it throw you off? Were you aware of what happened, or were you
I
kind of?
was, and I was, the way I felt, like my arm was kind of trapped underneath me, so it was kind of taking a little bit of wiggling to get the arm out. And I actually felt like I was like had my bearings back by the time that it was stopped. So I wish I would have had a little bit more time
Mm,
to work, but you can't really blame the ref because he's
no,
doing
yeah,
what he thinks he can. But I've been on both sides of the coin. I've iced people, and
yeah,
then this time I got put on my butt. And like I said, this is what we do. We're not in here baking cakes. This is being sport. These are the risks that we take, and I know full well every time I step in there
yeah,
that it's a real risk.
yeah.
And I've come to terms with that.
Yeah, and where you're a radiologist and you kind of, I mean, you do CAT scans and MRIs, is that correct? Or,
Just nuclear medicine.
okay, so what does that involve?
um, Injecting people with like radioactive tracers and doing diagnostic testing for various body parts. Cardiology is like a big part of it,
Okay.
your cardiology part. So we do a lot of stress testing and that sort of thing for hearts.
Yeah, so I was just I didn't know the extent of it and how it was, like with concussions or anything like that after you have a knockout. I didn't know if you knew anything medically about that, or if you were concerned too, knowing what you know, because you are in the medical industry. You know, were you at all kind of like, oh, okay, how does this affect my brain being knocked out?
Well, I I wasn't like completely out, like,
Mm-hmm.
so that wasn't like, I've seen people like be completely out and be out for like 1 or 2 minutes. Now that gets
Mm-hmm.
pretty scary. Like
Yeah.
I was like stunned for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt, with that situation, that's a little bit better situation than being completely out. But also, like, I know these symptoms of concussions. Like, I didn't have any issues with remembering anything or knowing where I'm at, my balance, not feeling nauseous, anything like that. So I wasn't too worried about it. I've had a brain MRI before, and it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like anything you do can be dangerous. I can
Yeah.
get in driving a car is dangerous, and especially the way people drive around the metroplex, that is freaking dangerous. You know what I mean? But I still get in my car and I still do it every day, and you
Uh-huh.
see people dying every day in horrific accidents. It's
Yeah.
inherently dangerous, but so you just have to pick and choose what you're willing to suffer for, what you're willing to risk.
Mm.
Yes, people are like, oh, that's dangerous. You're taking all kinds of head trauma.
Mm.
There's plenty of things. Eating processed refined sugars and having a bad diet is dangerous because that can lead to issues, but people still do it every day.
Right.
So for me, I don't see it as being much different than taking poor care of yourself.
Right, right. Yeah. So, I mean, you took a little bit of damage from your recent fight. You have like, you got like
Yeah,
little
raccoon
raccoon
eyes.
eyes. And then I noticed you had posted, did you get a cut on the top of the head too from elbows, or what was that?
Yeah. So I don't even remember it happening.
Yeah.
And then but my husband was like, yeah, in one of the rounds there was like a little bit of blood.
Mm.
I think it, yeah, maybe just caught an errant elbow or whatever. It's like
Right.
back towards here somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. It
Yeah.
wasn't even like, it wasn't bad enough to stitch or anything. They were just like, yeah, it'll be fine.
Oh,
All right,
cool. Well, that's good. You didn't have to have
rub
stitches
some dirt
all
on it.
over.
It'll be all right.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Do you have stitches? But I guess the reason why I asked is because you did post like what the warrior is all about. Like, being a female warrior, you want to get in the cage. This is what you got to contend with. And you had these like all these photos of what the aftermath is, which I thought was really kind of cool that you did show that so people could see what you as a fighter contend with prior to all the fight week, all the training prior to the sacrifices that you make, and then going in, you win the belt, then coming out of it, some of the flack, the post media stuff, and then to all the physical stuff that you go through, as well as the joy of it and reaching your goal, reaching your what you had set out to do. So this is like a lot that goes into this.
Yeah,
And
I think there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people don't realize. All the work that you put in, the beating
yeah,
that you take, the cutting the weight, the mental aspect of it, um, the verbal abuse, you get from, tons of internet people. It's like,
yeah,
even when you do great, even when you have
yeah,
this like fantastic performance, you're still going to have people who, don't think it was great or still think you suck, or, there's so many people out there that just want to say hateful things. Like, they're like, I'm on the internet. Nobody's ever going to see my face. Nobody's ever going to know who I am.
mm,
I can just say the most ugly, hateful, most hurtful things that I can to another person just because
mm,
it makes me feel good or whatever.
mm,
Like, I remember seeing like Tatiana Suarez, she finished Alexa Grasso in like, I don't know, 2 minutes of the first round. Like, she had a really great performance, like did everything like perfect. And she was posting that somebody was just tearing into her, telling her how she was like such a horrible fighter and they hope that she gets knocked out. And, I even had somebody send me a message like, I hope you get knocked out. Like, okay, cool. You
mm,
seem really upset about something that's pretty inconsequential to your life.
mhm.
Maybe you need a therapist. Maybe you need more to work on in your own personal life. If you're getting, that upset about my personal life.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
crazy. For every like 10 positive messages you get, you'll probably have 2 or 3 really hateful or really weird, messages come in, and you just have to get to where, you ignore those, you let those roll off your back,
Mm,
because these people are nobody and they have no effect on
yeah.
what it is you do.
Yeah. I mean, for some people it might bother. I mean, in the early stages of when you were building your career and that you would come up across that, did it like hurt, like when you would get that kind of a response from fans?
Yeah, kind of. It's like you said, early on, it's like, you kind of start building momentum and you're like, oh, what are people saying about me? Like, what do they think? And then you see that and you're like, wow, I try really hard. I'm putting it out there, risking my health. And then, all people can talk about is, if they think I'm attractive, or, do they think I'm just some bum off the street. But, you have to learn to really just ignore all that and take it with a grain of salt.
Mm,
Because again, a lot of these people know zero, or just don't know anything about fighting.
right.
They've never been there. They've never been in a gym. They've never seen
Mm,
really what it takes. They have no understanding of everything that goes into it.
mhm.
And, at the end of the day, like, one person's opinion just really doesn't matter. Like, I have plenty of opinions about things. You know, I don't get on the internet and voice them and, you know, try to break people down, but not everybody has those kind of manners. So
Yeah, right. I know. I hear you. I've seen a lot over the years of some things that have been said and not said, and very threatening things that have been said to women, female fighters, you know, over the internet. But years ago, even before we had the internet, there were actresses that were, you know, fans would be standing outside their house and then trying to harm them, you know, physically. And do you find that do you come across it? Do you hear guys ever kind of saying, oh, this is what I have going on here, you know, trolling or any of that? Or do you think it's more, you know, attractive female, you know, females that are in the spotlight? Or
you know, I have male training partners, and, you know, they don't talk about it much, and I think maybe just because they're like, I don't give a shit, whatever. You know, but I don't know if they get like threatening messages, but, you know, there's plenty of trolls out there, and I know that they talk about, like, you know, they talk about the guys just as much. And you know, I have a training partner, and he took a last minute fight, and, you know, he didn't come out with a victory, and, you know, people were just like trashing him, like, and it's like, this guy took the fight on like 7 days notice, and he cut like 20 something pounds in like 2 or 3 days, you know, and he took on, you know, one of the top guys in his weight class in the UFC. At people,
wow.
I mean, you know, maybe 10 people would turn down that fight, and he took it, you know. So that speaks a lot for, you know, his mental strength, and, you know, for people just to be like, oh, that guy look like shit, and, you know, whatever. It's like, you know, those opinions don't matter, because, you know what, he's still in the UFC, and he just had a victory recently. And
Nice.
you know, again, it's like, these people, it's easy for them to sit and judge, you know, at home behind their computer or whatever, and say
Anonymously.
yeah. So, you know, until somebody has like the courage to come up and say it to your face, then, you know, I wouldn't worry about it.
So, could you share a personal habit or a daily routine that contributes to your success?
You know, just recently I've kind of got into a little bit of like bullet journaling. And usually it's in the morning, like while I'm drinking coffee and trying to wake up, but it kind of helps me focus on what I need to get done, you know, during the day. Helps me, because I just, you know, sometimes have just a ton of stuff happening, and, you know, just being tired from training, especially when I'm in fight camp. So it kind of helps me focus on what I need to do, things that I want to get done, things maybe that I want to focus on in training.
Can you describe the process of I've never heard that term before, bullet journaling.
Well, it's kind of like, people get really creative with it and make all kinds of lists, and it's kind of like a more artistic journaling. They draw pictures. Like, mine's not, you know, near like that, but you know, I call it bullet journaling. Maybe it's just journaling. I don't know. Anyways,
I like that. It's a good term.
It's sitting, you know, and just making bullet points about what's important for that day, or what I need to get done, you know, errand wise, or, you know, like I said, in training, things that I want to focus on, getting done maybe in sparring, or, you know, that sort of thing.
Do you meditate at all, or?
I don't. I want to try to get into that, but I just tend to, you know, fall asleep.
A lot of people do.
Is that meditating?
Well, yeah, you're tired, so you can kind of like set up a meditation, and if it's for 1 second, and you know, out snoring Z's, you're fine, you know. But I think I don't know if it was you, but I'm thinking it was you that one time somebody asked you a question about visualization prior to a fight, or if you did any of that, kind of like, you know, Olympic athletes do visualizations. And I think your comment might have been, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that no, you don't do it because it doesn't typically turn out the way you visualized it. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if there's like a secret to it, and I haven't found it yet, but I'm like, you know, I visualize, you know, so many things, and I'm like, no, not a single one of those things happened. So
not the way I planned it. I don't think it typically ever goes the way you exactly plan it, but the outcome, that's what it, you know, the outcome is like what you're looking for, the outcome.
Okay. Well, I visualized myself winning, but in all the ways that I thought I was going to win, you know, that it wasn't going the distance and that sort of thing. So there you go.
That's funny. All right. So let me see. Oh, has there been, can you share a story on your journey in say martial arts when you experienced an aha moment of realization?
You know, I didn't wrestle in high school. I didn't wrestle in college, and it was something that I picked up much, much later in life, and um, something that I really started to focus on a couple of years ago. And so but I'd still never really done it in a fight. It's just, it's so different, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You may drill something a million times, but actually like implementing it into a fight, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And so when I finally started to implement it in my fights, it was kind of like an aha moment. I'm like, oh, this is so much easier this way. And trusting in my skill and trusting in the hours of drilling and the
Mm-hmm.
time that I've put in, in college wrestling rooms and high school wrestling rooms and at wrestling clubs, and just being able to finally trust in my ability.
So did you start out in wrestling or did you start out with stand-up?
Standing.
Yeah. And then you got into wrestling and then now
Mhm.
you've put them together. And it's taken
Yeah.
you a while to put them together, but you still had the background?
Well, I wouldn't say I had the background. That was something I started focusing on, 3-4 years ago, and
Okay.
I've been training and just drilling, and still, and it only showed up in 1 or 2 fights ago.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I had that in my back pocket, I knew how to do it. I finally just bit the bullet and said, you know what, I'm going to shoot. It's scary being out in that space and just shooting out in space, but I was like, you know what,
Yeah.
I've done this thousands and thousands and thousands of time. I'm just going to change my level and shoot.
Oh,
And
cool.
it worked. And then it's like, hey, just trust in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's good. It's kind of funny when you end up trying something new when you're under that kind of pressure.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
it's hard to commit.
yeah, for sure. Definitely. Do you have a story of a time in your journey where you experienced failure and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, sure. Like in December, that was a hard loss for me. Because nobody wants to get stopped, nobody wants to get TKO'd, and that was like kind of a worse fear for me. Like, what would I always just thought, like, what would I do if that happened? Like, it would just be so devastating. Like, would I even still want to fight? Like,
Mm,
I would just be so humiliated. It would just
mm,
and then it happened, and it was a pretty high profile fight, and it was for a title over in Korea. And
mm,
granted, it was against arguably one of the best atomweights in the world,
mhm.
and she had 3 times the experience as me.
Yeah.
But I still thought, I still do think I could beat her, actually.
Mm,
I'm sure people are like, you're crazy, obviously, look what happened. But
you
um
never know. Mhm.
yeah, it's like, I thought it was a fluke, and I still think I have the better skill set. But anyways, I digress. The point is, like, I had suffered failure, and I just thought it would, I mean, it was humiliating and it was terrible. I'm not going to say I was happy about it, but
Mm,
I just realized that it happened, and it's okay. I still have my health. I was still able to pick myself up and walk out of that.
mhm.
And it's, I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't, I mean, in the whole spectrum of things, like, there could be much, 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 much worse things happening. And if losing a fight is like the worst day of my life, then I have a pretty good life. And so, it happened, and I survived, and it's okay. And,
Mhm.
I don't have to be afraid of it. And it's kind of just another piece of my armor now,
Oh, cool.
because
That's good.
it's one more thing that didn't stop me.
Yeah. And yeah, because you came off of that and then you went into a title fight like 7 months later. That's huge. I was like, wow, that's really huge to come off psychologically. I mean,
Right.
to come off of something like that and then come into the cage again and fight a very tough opponent who was on a winning streak and then coming out successful. So it's like, wow, that's huge. I know one of the guys, well, some of the trainers at our gym, when guys would get knocked out, he would tell them, he's like, why are you worried about it? Nobody, the humiliation thing, it's like, you don't know what's going on. It's like you get knocked out, you're down, the fight's over, you can get up, you can go home. It's like, He would just put this spin on it, and I'm like, I don't know if they actually feel like that when that happens, because you kind of like get blacked out or something. But I just thought it was his perspective was just hilarious. I'm like, oh my word. But I don't know. I digress. So, who would you say has played a meaningful role in your life's journey and influenced you in a positive way?
I don't know. I didn't have a lot of role models growing up. I kind of had a rough childhood growing up, and I did a lot of it, kind of on my own. I didn't have parents really to fall back on
Mm-hmm.
or anyone to help me out if I needed to. So I really had to rely on myself. And I knew from kind of an early age that, I get one shot at this. There's no screwing up. There's nobody to bail you out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you screw up and you're stuck there. So, it's sink or swim. You succeed or you don't. And
Has,
I don't know. So just
has
kind of,
that made you? Do you think that your tough early childhood, or maybe lack of childhood, because it sounds like you had to be pretty responsible for yourself. Do you think that kind of pushed you into the martial arts, pushed you into that kind of you know atmosphere where wasn't typically for women?
no, I don't think so. I found martial arts a lot later in life, like after I'd already graduated college and stuff.
Mhm.
But I do think it helped, shape my, my mentality. Having a strong work ethic and, just not cracking under pressure.
Mhm.
Just because I'm like, at the end of the day, fighting is a scary thing. But I'm like, if life can't break you, then what's a 15 or 25-minute fight gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a little workout, right? A little tougher workout, but a little workout.
Maybe it hurts a little more, but yeah.
Yeah, it definitely hurts more. What are maybe three things that you do that are essential to the success in leading an empowered life?
Um, First of all, I think you know, I think having a strong work ethic's super important. It's like nothing's gonna happen without you putting in the work. Nothing's just gonna fall into your lap. And it's a lot more enjoyable when you do accomplish your goals, knowing that you've put in so much work, you've put so much into it. So when you do, it feels great. So, for sure, having like a really strong work ethic's important. Being confident in yourself and believing in yourself, but also um, surrounding yourself with the right people.
Mm.
You need a strong support system. You need people who are, um, just hungry for success themselves. Like,
Mhm.
if you're hanging around with people who are lazy or,
So
just
how
never.
did you know to find that? Like when you were younger, if you didn't have like, your family teaching you that, how did you find that in yourself? Or, did you just happen to have a friend that, was a great, kind of help put you in the right direction, so to speak?
Um, I don't, I think I just kind of looked out, and I think it was something that I kind of figured out on my own. 'Cause when I was like in high school, like I hung out with a lot of older people who were, not in high school anymore, and
Mhm.
they were so cool, and they had nice cars and this and that, and hung out with them for a long time. And um, it's like at one day I finally was just like, these people are so cool, but I mean, they're like 25, 27. They still live at home with their parents. Like, what's going on with this?
Mhm.
Do these people not, like, I don't know, want to do anything with their lives? Or are they going to live at home with their parents forever and let their parents, foot the bill for everything?
Mhm.
Um, for whatever reason, like one day that just finally stood out to me, and I was like, you know,
Mhm.
I, I'm not like them because I can't just do that. Like, my
Right.
parents aren't around. I can't live with my mom until I'm 27 or 28, and she pays my car payment and she pays my rent, and then I'm just, you know,
Mm.
hanging out, being cool. I was like, I don't have that. Like, I have to get out. I need to get my ass in college. I need to figure something out and find a way to make a living for myself because this is where I'm different from these people.
Mm. How did you manage that? How did you manage your college education on your own?
So I did really well in high school. Like, even though I had like a hard upbringing, like I was always a good student, and I ended up getting like a ton of scholarships. I went to a community college first, where I mean, I think the tuition was like $40 or $50 per credit hour, so it was super cheap.
Wow.
I think maybe my whole college education may have cost like $3,500 for my associate's degree or something.
Lucky you. Wow.
And a lot of that was paid through like Pell Grants, and then I had like $7,000 or $8,000 worth of scholarships right out of high school, and so I was a good steward with my money, and paid off my car and paid for myself to go to school, and then I finished, and I had a degree in nuclear medicine, and right out of school was making 70,000-80,000 a year off a 2-year degree. So yeah.
That's pretty good.
Made some good decisions back there somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd say you did. Well, most often when I'm interviewing fighters, they don't have that kind of background, and they're just relying. Well, they're not relying on being a fighter because they know it's a finite kind of career. And for somebody that has that background, but then, you're looking at what you're creating right now, and how do you see yourself like business wise in the next, maybe few years? Do you still see yourself as a fighter? I mean, I know you'll be defending your title, but how long do you think you'll be doing this? And then what will be next for you, do you think?
I don't know. I'd like to keep fighting as long as I can. When I start noticing that my body can't keep up, or maybe that I'm just getting really injury prone, knock on wood, I haven't had any real serious injuries except for breaking my hand. But nothing with my knees, nothing with my back, nothing with my neck. I've not had any of those injuries, and I'd like to get out, before anything like that happens. But as long as I can still keep up and it doesn't feel just too much like work, I'd like to keep fighting. Obviously, I'd like to, somehow brand myself, or set up some sort of passive revenue streams, to help, with the fighting. But when I'm done, I'd like to figure out a way maybe that I don't have to go back to your typical 9 to 5 and jump back in that corporate rat race. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet, but maybe it'll come to me.
Oh, I'm sure you're in this world. I'm sure there'll be some sort of opportunity in this environment of being in mixed martial arts, or there's so many things, and I think you probably help people in a different way that you probably aren't thinking of right now. But as you move on in your fight career, something will probably turn up, I bet.
Who knows? Maybe I'll be a commentator for Invicta, because they might need some new ones.
yeah, maybe. They would definitely sway in the crowd for sure, depending. But you know what? They're coming from different perspective on fights, and they do know stuff. I mean, they've been in the cage before, so
yeah. Well, one of them.
Yeah, one of them.
But yeah, I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and
yeah,
if they feel that.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people that feel the opposite. So.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how it goes too with that. I mean, like you have the title, and love it while you have it, and enjoy it, and suck up all the attention, good and bad. I mean, that's the best part of it, and it draws more attention to yourself, so you're just gaining more attention. You're getting all of it. Like, you're getting like the good and the bad.
When you put yourself out there, you can't help but get negative responses too. You put yourself out there in the public eye, there's always going to be positives, but there's always going to be someone who finds something negative to say about it.
Absolutely.
It comes with the territory.
Yeah, totally, for sure. So let me see. There was I just want to look over. There was some other things on here that I don't want to miss, because I'm like, there was just such an interesting person. I was like, wow, this girl's got some stuff going on. What would you say was one of your toughest fights? And not your last knock, the one, that one, but like another one that was really tough, to get through.
This one was tough because I knew I had lost that first round. And so like coming out and immediately losing the first round, that's another thing that's hard to overcome. And, it kind of caught me, her strength caught me by surprise. I was surprised that she was as strong as she was and was able just to hold me there.
Mm,
And, and then she tried to employ it in the second round. And, I really had to overcome, you know, being down,
mm.
and say, no, this, I've put too much work into this. This is my night. This is my card. This is my time to win this belt. Like, I'm not going to let her
Take it from you.
take it from me.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your greatest challenge with dealing with fear? And how did you overcome it?
Um, I always think that a healthy amount of fear, or a little bit of fear, is healthy. Um, Too much fear and you're paralyzed. Not enough fear and you're arrogant. Um, I feel like a small amount keeps you kind of primed and ready. Um, but I feel like you miss out on so many things in life, by letting fear dictate what you do. So you can't live your life in fear. And a lot of times, some of the greatest things in your life happen outside of your comfort zone. And if you let fear keep you in your comfort zone, then you'll never get to experience those things. I never could have won the title if I didn't try to win it. But it's a scary thing going out there because, anything can happen. I can get knocked out. I can lose. I can put all this work in and still get beaten. It's a scary thing, but I also can't win it if I don't try.
That was great. That was really great. That's
Really
inspiring.
that deep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that stuff. It's like so good. Like when because like you're actually living that. You're putting yourself, you're confronting fear, like just stepping in the cage. You're confronting your own fears by stepping and just having one other opponent. You're relying on yourself. Yeah, there's a referee in the cage, but it's just you and this other opponent that wants to tear you to smithereens.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrifying thing. You have another
Mm.
person who's an elite level athlete who wants nothing but to do bodily injury to you.
Yeah.
Terrifying. And not only that, everybody's watching.
Yeah.
And it's like it's horribly terrifying, but you still have to get in there and do what needs to be done.
So what's the love part about it? Like, I mean, I know you put yourself in that, but there's got to be some like, I freaking love this. I'm a psycho, but I like, like to get it. I mean, do you feel like that a little bit?
Um,
Like to be able to do that.
I enjoy challenging myself.
Yeah.
Even when I'm not training for a fight or whatever, like I'm doing physically challenging things. Like we go on vacation, like last year we did the Tour de Mont Blanc, and it's 108 miles through the Swiss, French, and Italian Alps. And and so we trekked that with 25-pound packs over the course of a week. Just
Wow.
I like physically challenging, physically demanding things, to test myself. And anytime we go anywhere, we're climbing a mountain or we're doing some like long distance trek or just something that's physically hard that most people would be like, no, I don't want to do
Mm.
that. Just because I see the most growth in myself when I challenge myself, and
Mhm.
it it feels incredible when you do something that most people are like, no, I don't want to do that. That looks like it sucks.
Mhm.
And you do it, and maybe you suffer a little bit during the process, but when you
Mhm.
finally get to the top, you just feel incredible, and you feel unstoppable. It's like, okay, I did that. Now, what's the next thing I can do? What's the
Mhm.
next thing that most people can't do that I'm going to do?
Mhm.
And so, like, fighting is the same. It's like it doesn't really even matter who the person is across from me. It's more, the fight is more about challenging myself. Like, how far can I push myself? How much further can I go than what I feel like I physically can? How
Mhm.
much mentally stronger can I be by pushing
Mhm.
myself beyond boundaries that I feel like I have?
Mhm. Yeah. And physically, like when you're like, I know, say in fight camp, you get pushed to the brink of exhaustion, like you're put in like a shark tank, and you have like fresh opponents coming in beating the shit out of you, and you're trying to
Yeah.
maintain until you're at your weakest point. What goes on in your head during that? Like what do you think of to keep you fighting and to keep you, not giving up?
I try to like not think too far ahead. It's just like, okay, step one is get up, or step one is get out of this position. And then just one step at a time, because you can't just say, oh my God, I've got 3 rounds left and I'm already so tired. It's just step one.
Mm-hmm. One
You
step
know,
at a time, like one day at a time. If, somebody was ill or sick or something like that,
yeah,
and
you
they have
can't,
to.
you'll just get too beat down thinking about the long journey ahead. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
just one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm. That's wise. That's wise. That's definitely wise. Um, how do you see yourself as a role model for young women or girls coming up?
I hope to be a good role model. I try to be articulate. I try to speak well. I try to emphasize the importance of education. Um, you know, those sorts of things. Just because you can't rely on fighting professionally to make your career. You never know what's going to happen. It's good to have an education. It's good to have something to fall back on for yourself. But I hope I uphold myself in a professional manner. I try to think about those things, before I tweet things or say things. Um, I try
Oh,
to say
I got like a little thing that I saw that you wrote. I was like, oh, you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know. Oh, are you holding your nose? Okay.
Yeah, can I say?
Yeah, that's fine. I was like, do I say something about it or not? And I was like, you know what? I feel like it was intentional. I'm not gonna just bash her for it, but I will mention it. I will bring it up.
Wow, because
And
I was like, when I read it, I was like, oh, wow, wow. This I'm not showering for a week so that my body odor makes my opponent gag tactic. It's called the stink tactic. Now, I've heard of this before, like not fighters, well, maybe some fighters doing it, but like,
wrestlers, like I'd heard of it, and I was like, surely nobody does that. Surely nobody does that. But earlier in the week when I had got there was another camp, and they were like, oh my God, we were in the workout room with her earlier, and they were like, she stunk the entire room up. Like, we left. And
yeah.
I mean, I'm hearing from other camps like earlier in the week about this. So I'm like, okay. And then actually the housekeeping girls came through, and they were super friendly, and I'm just kind of chatting with them while they're changing out our bed linens and stuff. And I ended up giving them my comp tickets because I didn't have anybody else coming to the fight.
Mm.
And they mentioned, they were like, we just came, because they were like, you're on the poster, right? And I was like, yeah, that's me. And they were like, we just came from the other girls' room who's on the poster, which would be Minna. And they had a lot to say about how gross and how bad her room was. So I'm even hearing from housekeeping. And
Wow.
this is like 2 or 3 days before the fight. And then come fight night, there was only one restroom in the back, and I went to the bathroom, and I didn't realize it, but she was coming out as I was coming in, and when I walked in there, I was like, oh my God, like, this is bad. and
Wow.
and we rode afterwards. It was kind of awkward, but we both had to take the same shuttle back to the hotel room, or the hotel, and she stunk up the entire shuttle, and like me and my whole team were just sitting there like, dear God, how long is this ride gonna last?
Oh
And
my word.
I honestly feel like it was intentional, just because of what her game
Huh.
plan was. Like the whole grabbing me and just holding me against the cage. Like I know she wanted to make me uncomfortable, but I've worked in a hospital for more than 10 years, so I've smelled a lot of
Yes.
foul things. So
Yeah.
not it, it wasn't pleasant, but it's not something that's going to be a factor in the fight.
Right, right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like so many people are just like, you're so rude. I can't believe you'd bring that up. Maybe she just sweats, and I'm like, no.
I know. I was like, oh, maybe
It's
it's a
like, but 3 or
cultural thing or something
yeah,
like
like,
in
plenty
just
of
kind of,
European
a
people.
couple days without a shower, or maybe eating something that came through, or maybe she had her
See, and
menses or something.
that's what people were saying, and I was like, no, I know it wasn't her diet. I mean, she had to make weight, and she was bigger than me, so I
Yeah.
know she was eating clean. I know plenty of Nordic people, and none of them stink. They're
Yeah.
actually, all the Icelanders I know are extremely clean.
Mm-hmm.
And when people are telling you like 3 or 4 days prior to the event that she smells bad, like, you have to think that it had to have been intentional.
Wow.
So
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I don't want to speculate here, but that's just, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I can't even get my head around that. I can remember one time my gi, I I wore it, you know, and I didn't even think I broke a sweat in my training or whatever. And I came home and I just shoved it in my bag. I kind of forgot about it. Then I went back to the gym and put it on again. And I'm like rolling with somebody. I'm like, what the hell smells? And I'm like, oh my God, right? And I'm thinking it's them, but it was my gi. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. And it was just from a little bit of sweat getting in the gi, you know, like, and it wasn't like bad, but I mean, I can remember people being on the mat like horrible, and the instructors telling them, you can't do that because you need to wash your gi.
Yeah, it's like, that's how you get staph. That's how you start
staph or ringworm or something like that.
It's unpleasant, but it's also like, you know, you can make people sick like that.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I don't know what that was all about, but you know, you got to talk about these things because they come up. But when I read it, I was like, oh, should I say anything? I'm like, I don't want to bring a lot of attention to it, but like, well, you know, now it's out. The cat's out of the bag. You know,
if I should say something, and my husband's like, no, call her out. He was like, that's a dirty tactic, and
it is.
You know, people should know if that's what she was trying to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that isn't good. So I guess she is interested in having a rematch, which I think I mentioned earlier in this interview, but you know, I know you said you'd be willing to, you know, whatever Invicta throws at you, you're willing to go after. So that's awesome. One of the last questions I usually ask most fighters is to share a story where you felt inadequate or were told no because you were a woman, and then, you know, how did you have to deal with it?
I think early on, you know, it's still hard to find gyms with a lot of women. But definitely early on when I first started training, you know, most of the time I was the only woman, and not only am I the only woman, I'm like the smallest person by far. You know, and guys don't really take you seriously, or maybe they don't want to work with you because you're a woman. But you know, sometimes I'd have to just get a little fired up and, you know, start throwing heat just, you know, to get someone to take me seriously. And even now, sometimes like people are like, oh, she's this tiny little girl, like whatever, I'll go easy on her. And then it's like, you kind of have to turn it up on them to let them know, like, you deserve a little respect.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad you did that. You know, would you like to give a shout out to anybody, or, you know, a little infomercial about what's coming next for you, Jen?
Just a shout out to my teammates and my coaches. I always say that, you know, I may get in there alone, but it's definitely a team effort, you know, that gets me there. And, you know, a couple of sponsors, Cruise Combat on it and Victor Beef, have always had my back, and, you know, they were in my corner again. So I appreciate, you know, their support as well.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope to have you back at some point soon, maybe before your next fight, whenever that may be. I know you're looking for probably something before the end of the year again, right? Yeah, that would be cool.
Hopefully not around Thanksgiving, maybe before, because I'm so sick and tired of having to skip Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's the worst. So
yeah, for sure, right?
Prior to that.
That would be great. It would be great to see you before then too. Yeah, that would be awesome. Good timing for that, I think.
Yeah.
So thanks again so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And good luck to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Hey, so how cool was that? Invicta FC's new atomweight champ, Jinh Yu Frey. And she sounds great. I mean, very well educated, smart lady, and definitely deserving of the Invicta FC Atomweight belt. I'm looking forward to seeing her fight again very soon. So hopefully we'll see her before the holidays. If you like what you heard today and are eager to hear more, remember to subscribe, download on iTunes, or better yet, 10x your energy without destroying your body by signing up for my free 3-part video series, where you can also get included in getting updates on the latest episodes of Evolve WMMA. You can do this by going directly to evolvewmma.com, or simply follow us on facebook.com/I love WMMA. This is Shelley Devine. Until next time, thanks for listening.